I'm going, hi, kitty cat.
Ooh, who said that?
That was Luke. Luke just is
That
saying
was
that
the
he's
cutest meow.
very baby.
Oh, I have a very funny cat story. I don't know if now is the right time, now that we've just gone live.
Okay,
we have to start with some complete non sequitur. That's the thing.
Okay, complete non sequitur. The other day, so my apartment has like a little tiny bit of a corner window that kind of faces my neighbor's balcony. It's a little difficult to explain. But I had the window in my living room cracked open the other day because it was beautiful weather out. I was getting fresh air in the apartment. And so I was in the other room. I could hear when my neighbor's tiny child started meowing at my cat.
Oh my God.
And Sunshine was sitting in the corner window staring at neighbor toddler meowing at her.
Look, I think every cat needs to be meowed at by a small child.
That's so cute, though.
It was
so confused, though.
Sunshine came running away from the window like, human, do you see what's happening? I was like, yes. And then I brought her back to the window so that the child could see her. But it was the cutest thing.
I love that so much.
I bet. That's so cute.
Heck yeah.
Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome to the April Stitchin' Bitch. My name's Diana. This is my channel Bookish Di, and let's do a quick round of introductions and what people are crafting. And we have a little bit of a deviation from our normal schedule that we'll get into after introductions and crafting. I'm still crafting the same shawl. I am making progress. I'm on the second to last batch of medium waves, and then it's 5 iterations of the tiny waves, and then I'll be done. And then I need to figure out what new thing I'm knitting. So
I'm sure you have many things to choose from.
I mean, I should probably finish the sweater I started in 2021.
Or do a really small project that's not like a shawl or a sweater.
Yeah. Maybe I'll finally learn how to knit socks. I've never knit a sock. So I don't know who else was an American girly, but I remember reading Changes for Molly and this whole plot about them like putting together like a care package for the service members, and they're supposed to knit socks, and Molly like freaks out over how hard the heel is, and it turns out her freak out was justified because everyone's like, the heel is so hard, so they end up making a blanket instead.
Yeah, so when I was like in elementary school, like craft is like mandatory subject. So you either do woodworking or textile crafts, and we had to choose either we do woolen socks or mittens. And I chose the sock, and it was the worst decision of my small elementary aged life.
Di, have you ever knit with short rows?
I did a shawl, like a peacock shawl that I think did have some short rows.
Okay. Yeah, heels are just short rows.
Okay.
And in my opinion, they make so much more sense when you're actually doing them. You start to see how the shape is forming. But yeah, the traditional heel flap and gusset type of sock is just short rows. Anyway, should I go next? I'm going to go.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm Rachel. My channel is Colonati, and I read science fiction, fantasy, and nonfiction, manga, all that sorts of stuff, and I talk about it here in the Stitchin' Bitch every month. So that's pretty much it. I'm not crafting anything right now because I've been trying to rescue my nail polish because I completely messed it up for the first time ever.
Come on, we have a second cat.
And I'm not allowed to touch anything until it's dry. So next.
My next.
Go for it.
I'm Kelsey. My channel is Fancy Hat Lady Reads. And I do have I am ready to proceed with my sewing project, sewing the new frill trim on the lining of this 10-year-old skirt. I needed, among other things, it turned out I needed to buy thread for it. And I also needed to iron out this crease that it has been in this fabric for, 10 years as I've been washing and wearing this garment. And it's not going to come uncreased, but I did actually wake up early enough today to say, oh, I'm actually going to break out the iron and iron the dang fabric so I can sew it on today's stream. But I'm not going to start that just yet. That's for a little later because I'm still drinking my tea and eating some food. So
Wait,
I'm going to
this
start
is
that
your
when
mug?
this
What is your mug?
It's the Cheshire
Oh,
Cat.
that's fun.
Statement mugs are a must.
I don't have a statement mug. I have my mom's mug from 15 years ago. I inherited one.
I have a statement mug. It's very fairy tale. It's a badger
Oh, it's a
I
badger.
like
Yeah.
that too.
wearing a hat.
and a rooster with a very or chicken with a very fancy hat.
My
That's
I
goodness.
like
also
that
the
a lot.
It almost looks like a peacock with the
yeah.
colors.
I think it's a rooster or a hen because it's very. I just think that it's a non-binary rooster. I think it's supposed to be a hen because it's very feminine, but that's gender roles are meant to be broken. But it's so cute.
For some reason, it reminds me of that era when David Bowie had red hair.
Mm.
One of my favorite genres of whimsical little artwork is animals wearing fancy hats.
That is a pretty great.
Yes. I had when I was a kid, I had a huge obsession with Beatrix Potter because of the and Aristocats because of the geese wearing
I love
bonnets.
the geese and Aristocats.
Yeah.
Well, while I'm showing off my Disney merch, hold on a moment.
Oh, there's more.
I don't think I've ever had an occasion.
Leia.
This is my Disney trip backpack.
Oh my god!
Oh, aristocrats.
I love that so much.
Oh my
It
god!
The kittens across the back.
Okay,
so
so
cute.
like a big part
It
of the
has
reason I want to
Zipper
go
pull
to
that's
Disneyland
red skirt
Paris
to mouse.
is
The
that
geese
apparently
with
they
the
have
bonnets.
cats.
I
geese.
can't.
Yes.
They're the best.
Yes. This was also a formative film for me as a child. Anyway.
Everybody wants to be a cat because the cat's
Okay.
Sorry.
Aside from Aristocat and bonnet obsession, hi, I'm Reija. My channel is The Bookfinch, and I read most recently a lot of manga and very questionable webtoons, and also fantasy and science fiction books.
Cool. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome Amy. Welcome. I'm so sorry. I'm blanking on Infinite Text name.
Andrea.
Andrea. I'm sorry. My brain is like filled with rage right now, and it's like pushing other things out. Welcome Rachel. Welcome Joe. Welcome Mr. Roro. Welcome everyone who has not chimed in the chat. Like I said, we are going to be talking about what we've been reading, what we've been watching. I know Ray is really excited to talk about Sinners, and I'm very excited to hear what they have to say about Sinners. But before we get into it, I do want to talk about the thing that is filling me with rage because I want to make sure that I talk about it. Hey, Rue. And that is Illumicrate absolutely shitting the bed and destroying and being hypocritical as fucking destroying a lot of goodwill that I had for them as a company. So just for some background, so on Wednesday, April 16th, the same day that the UK Supreme Court made its ruling that trans women aren't women, which is bullshit. on a case funded by J.K. Rowling, Illumicrate announced they were doing a special edition of Rose in Chains. For those of you who are blissfully unaware, Rose in Chains, published by Julie Soto, is her trad pub adaptation of her Draco Hermione fic, The Auction, where Voldemort wins and Hermione is sold to Draco as a sex slave. But don't worry, he's a nice slave master, and it's really the Order of the Phoenix who are terrible when they overthrow the Death Eaters and put Hermione in a mental institution because she keeps defending the Malfoys. But it's a romance, so everything's going to turn out anyway.
I was so confused because I knew there was another one of these books.
Oh no, so there's
but I didn't know about this one.
Hermione Draco's sex slave. So the other one is Alchemize, coming out in September. That is the pro pub adaptation of Manacled. And then there is a third book, which is not an adaptation of a fanfic, The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. However, the author is saying like, oh, this is for the Hermione girlies. Oh, people who love my Hermione fic will love this book. Talking about Harry Potter in pretty much every interview she's doing to promote this book. So like anyone who says that, oh, this isn't, helping JKR, you're wrong.
I have a question.
Yes.
So when we say pro-pubbed fanfiction, is this on a similar legal gray area as something like 50 Shades of Grey, where they basically it's basically the fan fiction as it is, but the serial numbers have been filed off?
Yeah, I would say like
basically find and like control alt find and replace.
Yeah, this is essentially what Thea Guazon did with Hurricane Wars and the original Reylo fic. Related, Thao Li, when I fucking find you, because she is at the scene of the crime once again. Anyway, so the reason why this is particularly egregious as well is that on June 2020, Illumicrate made this big fucking deal that they would no longer include Harry Potter merch in their box. And they had they have a rule in their Discord, Rule 13, that bans discussion of Harry Potter or J.K. Rowling. So earlier this year, they were teasing their books that were coming out from April through July, and they're doing the non-fanfic Draco Hermione one, The Irresistible Urge. And people were like, okay, this is a little weird given the author's proximity to Harry Potter and how she's promoting it. But they kind of like poo-pooed it. It didn't blow up. When they announced Rose in Chains, however, people in the Discord were rightly like, hey, what the fuck? And I joined the Discord to talk about it. Yes, Harry Potter adjacent is still Harry Potter. Exactly. Yes. And there was arguments about it and kind of how like the fact like how it felt like a betrayal, like not just like the fact that Illumicrate was doing this after making such a huge deal over not including Harry Potter, and then the fact that they also didn't have the sense God gave the goose to delay the announcement so that it wasn't coming out the same day as the UK Supreme Court ruling. And so during that initial discussion, people were also pointing out that Illumicrate has kind of fallen down on some other things that they pat themselves on the back at, namely their diverse author choices, pointing out that from December 2023 to May 2025, they have not included a Black author in their main sub box. Yes, last year they did have 6 Asian authors, but one of them, the one Desi author the book by a Desi author they included, Goddess of the River, that was a last minute replacement for the Kate Corain book. So initially they would have gone from 2021 when they did the Jasmine Throne, or the Jasmine Throne to March 2025 without doing a Desi book in the main sub. Anyway, so people pointed that out. The discussion got heated. The mod shut it down because it was they wanted to have a restful Easter weekend, which is in the UK a 4-day weekend, so Friday through Monday. The Tuesday they open it back up and they don't have a statement. And then the chief operating officer / head of communications, which is deeply funny given how she said this, said that the Illumicrate team will not be making a statement with regards to the decision to create an edition of Rose and Chains or any other books that are reworked Harry Potter fan fiction or that are written by authors who have previously written Harry Potter fan fiction, but we have seen your feedback and taken it on board. As always, you're welcome to email with your thoughts to the support team. In regard to the comments / questions about the server Rule 13, we don't think rules in a community space should be taken as a reflection or extension of Illumicrate's business strategy or the views of the members of the team.
And here I want, first of all, to call bullshit, but also the Discord server is managed by Illumicrate, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, it is their like communication outlet for the public and their customer base, essentially,
Mm-hmm.
that they are in control of, and they make the rules. Therefore, it is complete and utter bullshit to say that it does not reflect their company's values or company's like mission statement if they are the ones managing the server. It's an official communications avenue for them.
Oh, but see, there's a difference between Caitlin, the Illumicrate employee, and Caitlin, the moderator of the server, apparently. And, you know, that's
Wait,
why...
moderating the server isn't part of her job as an Illumicrate employee?
Yeah. And then Rue's pointing out there are unpaid mods who are not Illumicrate employees, although I have opinions about that too. Yeah, these unpaid mods play a role in this. So,
yeah,
rightfully,
I think
Caitlin
it's very unethical to have like if you are using like if it's basically a server that is an arm of your company that you use for communication, PR, and marketing purposes, and to connect with the like reader base, etc., customer base.
Pay your mods,
and you don't pay your mods, it is very ethically questionable. Like you are essentially relying on free labor from the community, and that is very sus.
Yeah, so people understandably were upset about Caitlin's statement. Caitlin tried to clarify, and then I'm going to pull up what she said because and then again, people were upset. Someone who was also upset, and then someone who was also upset said, you know, I know most people are transphobic and don't care, and that was taken as license for someone who was excited about the Rose and Chains editions to be like, why are you calling me transphobic? How dare you call me transphobic?
Well, if the shoe fits.
I mean, if you act that way, then
anyway, yes. Yes. Anyway, they shut down the server, but and I will own to this, I was very upset at one of Caitlin's statements. I'm trying to find the damn thing, because I might be banned, but I have screenshots. And we will get to the banning, because the banning is bullshit too. Sorry, this is like way far back in the server.
You also, when this
Caitlin was like, you need to stop talking about this. You need to stop. And I responded like, I'm glad I canceled. How you've been handling this is really upsetting. And I'm mad at the money that I have given you. And by that, I mean like the company Illumicrate. At one point she was like, stop typing. And I had stopped responding at that point, but there are a few other people who responded. So channel gets shut down. Wednesday, they come up with like new rules. Basically, being like, don't like, we're closing this conversation indefinitely. If stuff happens, mods will like warn you, there'll be a timeout, and then you'll be banned. On Thursday at around 10:30 p.m. UK time, I and a couple others who had been vocally upset at what Illumicrate was doing were banned. No warning, nothing saying what we did that violated the rules, no mods ping us saying, hey, we're banning you for X reasons, nothing. I know it wasn't just me because another person who was banned reached out to me over Discord to ask about that. And when Illumicrate was asked, why we were banned, this is what they said. Hold on. Now I have to go back and find it. In full transparency, 2 members who had not left the server and 2 members who had were given a ban following the events of the last few days. This was a decision made as a result of the repeated breaking of rules 1, 4, and 12, as well as in some cases, open hostility towards both moderation and other members. We will not be sharing the names of these accounts for privacy reasons, although it is of course up to them if they want to share their information themselves. So this is me sharing the information. I was one of the people who was banned. The rules that I was accused of making is hate speech and bullying, which
What?
I assume my friends who were in the server would have called me in over doing hate speech and bullying. So 4 is apparently not listening to the mods, which I was not the only one not listening to the mods, and those bitches didn't get banned. An open and rule 12 is a tone rule, so is 4. So yes, I was banned, and what I can only think of is retaliation for being vocally upset. The mods have yet to provide any examples of the specific things, where I specifically broke the rules, or the others who broke the rules. And yet, the person who was, how dare you call me transphobic, was not banned. The person who whose racist statements led to the initial ping of the mods on the Thursday after the announcement, they were not banned. The only people who were banned were the ones who were upset at Illumicrate's hypocrisy. And I also want to highlight the fact that Illumicrate has still not done the bare fucking minimum of apologizing. I don't expect them to cancel this book. Like, contracts are signed, production's happening. Like, Illumicrate's doing this fucking book. I want them to apologize for how they handled the announcement, and I want them to apologize for the fact that they so clearly are prioritizing a publishing trend over the community that they have cultivated for years at this point. They have been selling themselves as the BookBox company that supports marginalized authors, the BookBox company that supports progressive causes. They specifically cited their support for Gaza when people were calling them out on their hypocrisy. And it's
wait.
like, I cannot at this point believe you, because like, I have seen you willing to sacrifice those values you claim you have to do an edition of this fucking book.
I would say that based on how they are reacting and what they are doing with the feedback that they are receiving, ergo not receiving it well, apology is not gonna happen. They're just gonna dig their heels in deeper. And like basically I would assume that they're probably just going to try to stay quiet, keep it in the Discord as much as possible, and hope that the larger portion of their consumer base does not catch on.
Joke's on them. Banning me just made me want to yap more. So I'm
I'm just
calling for a-
saying that that's probably the
Oh, yeah,
strategy.
no. And here's the thing, I'm not calling for a boycott, but what I do want is if anyone has ever bought something from Illumicrate, or if anyone had ever been thinking of buying something from Illumicrate, email support@illumicrate.com and let them know how unhappy you are with this decision and if it's going to influence whether you purchase from them moving forward, because I don't know how much that's going to do, but I want them to know that there are people out there who are upset about this. And I also want to add that I do think it's them trying to chase this specific market. One of my friends is kind of going through some of their stats and their curation, but generally their curation lately has kind of just been all over the place. Like the last few years, they haven't done a good job of really sticking to what drew people to them. And it feels like they're very desperate to get new eyes, and it feels like they're trying to emulate what FairyLoot is doing, but unfortunately for them, FairyLoot already exists. And like the reason I'm mad at Illumicrate and not necessarily FairyLoot is FairyLoot has never really pretended to have value. Like FairyLoot has always been very blatant, like, we want your money. We are going to do these romantasy books that have a lot of problematic shit in them. We're gonna do them. Like, they never pretended that they had value and that they were going to
I think this is why I've never subscribed to any of the book boxes, is I've never found one that seemed like they were curating their picks in a way that made any sense for me as a reader.
I will say, like, for FairyLoot, ever since they created their romantasy sub, their adult fantasy sub has gotten better. Like,
maybe I should look into them again.
Like, for me, but I can definitely see like what their curation is going for. And they just launched an Epic Fantasy Quarterly sub, which again, like, I don't necessarily know if those books are going to be for me, which is why I haven't subscribed. But again, it's like they're very clear, like, what types of books they'll be picking. Like, they're doing the new Joe Abercrombie as the first pick, which, like, when they announced the sub, that was one of their inspirations. So I am not shocked that that's kind of the direction they're going with. They seem to have a more united curation. And yeah, I will also put this in. Illumicrate uses parasociality as part of their marketing at this point. FairyLoot is just a company, but Illumicrate wants us to associate their employees' personalities with their brands. Like, Illumicrate is very clear, like, oh, this book was, Daphne's pick, and she's so excited. Daphne is the president of Illumicrate. Or like, Caitlin chose this book and she really loves it and is so excited about it. Whereas with FairyLoot, it's like they don't list their curators on their website. Like, we don't know who's doing the pick. Like,
also, I think part of the reason, like, if you think about it, like, FairyLoot and Illumicrate are like direct competitors, like, for one thing. But I think part of the like, limited edition books are starting to be a very saturated market. And you have now, at least if you discount like Folio Society, which has been around forever, and it's like more catered to like specialist interests, you have Illumicrate, you have FairyLoot, you have Broken Binding, all
Owlcrate.
In the UK. Yeah, Owlcrate, obviously, yes, but like in the UK alone, there's like 3 major ones. And I would say that, for example, Broken Binding has recently had much more interesting like picks, because they do also like editions of older fantasy. Like, I'm still salty I didn't get the Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents. Anyway, but like, there's like competition, and especially now that the economy is going to the shitter, people will think twice before purchasing anything at all. So the competition is just gonna be more ruthless, and I think this is them also shifting tactics, like marketing tactics, to like basically rainbow money is all fine and dandy unless you have to stick with the values and actually do something, and then they're the first, like, we're the first people you can throw under the bus.
Speaking of rainbow marketing, did you know that the first queer book that Illumicrate is doing in their main sub isn't coming out till June? For this
They
year.
have not done a queer book.
For this year, the first queer book they're doing is June's book. And I'm pretty sure the only reason they're doing it is June is last year they were called out for not doing a queer book for June for Pride. And they lied and said, oh, it's not Pride in the UK in June. And then
Out of
their July
curiosity,
book
what is
straight
the
as
book
hell.
they're doing? Sorry.
What?
Out of curiosity, what is the book they're doing?
A Treachery of Swans.
Haven't heard of that one.
It's a YA sapphic Swan Lake retelling.
Ooh.
Oh.
Which
That actually
does sound
sounds
good, but,
interesting.
I canceled my sub because fuck them.
That sounds
I mean, if you
interesting.
want the
but
book,
I'm
you can just go buy the book. So.
I know.
Right. I do want to know about the book. I don't need the special edition.
Anyway, yeah, so the fact that out of 7 books in their main sub for 2025, only one of them is queer is not a good look. And then, yeah, and then in terms of racial diversity, so January's book was Watermoon. The author, I believe, is Japanese.
Oh, I just want to point out the American cover of A Treachery of Swans. I think this is the American cover. Is drop dead gorgeous.
It is a beautiful cover, and if I get the book, I will not be sad to get the American book because I love that kind of gothic arts, like that kind of lush illustration style.
Ooh, pretty.
Yeah, it's so nice. Let me. Yeah. So February, their book was by a transphobic pro-Trump author. And so Illumicrate has a speculation spreadsheet, and when people were starting to speculate that would be February's book, people were like, hey, what the hell's going on? Apparently in the server, the Illumicrate employees played dumb, did not respond. And then when people were calling them out on the announcement, they're like, oh, well, we have a contract. We can't do anything about it. And it's like, okay, but her anti-choice pro-Trump bullshit was available. I think it dates back to 2022, 2023. All they had to do was Google. And they couldn't even do that.
That is wild to me. If you're running a business with values like that, it is literally your job to research the product that you are going to sell.
They're never going to include Mark Lawrence in a box again because he was misogynistic towards V.E. Schwab.
I don't get it. I'm not familiar with any of these services. I bought one Illumicrate Martha Wells mug because it was really cool looking, but it just kind of boggles my mind that Illumicrate has had a way of presenting themselves, their values that sounds great to me. If they want to promote marginalized authors and all of that, that should be their niche. If they want to compete with other a saturated market of UK based subscription services, there is a community out there that would be diehard fans of a curated book subscription service that actually does that puts front and center queer authors, BIPOC authors, and makes that their thing and does the hard work of researching for people. People want that. Finding those things is the hard part.
Yeah, so that's the situation with Illumicrate. I'm debating if I want to send another ticket to support asking them to give me concrete examples of where I broke the rules, because otherwise it does just feel like retaliation, and it just really emphasizes that the server as it currently is not a safe place for anyone. Even the people who agreed with them on Rose and Chains, there's no guarantee that Illumicrate won't do something else that will get them vocally upset, and the mods will just ban hammer them and then lie about why they were banned.
I think it would probably have more of an impact to get other people to contact them and explain that it has affected their opinion of
yeah, so please contact support@illumicrate.com. Let them know. Talk about it as well. Just be public about the shit that they've been pulling, because they're, and I also want to highlight, if people are saying, oh, well, it's not actually Harry Potter, it's like not helping her. I went into Idlewise, which is kind of like NetGalley, but specifically for like publishers and librarians, kind of talking about upcoming books. It has key selling points. It talks about the marketing plan for both Rose in Chains and The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy. They have flyers talking about the fanfic origins, talking about the number of hits the fics have on AO3, the number of tags on TikTok, and the one for Irresistible Urge is specifically like, what is Dramione? And it's the fandom is included in the key selling points for Rose in Chains, Irresistible Urge, and Alchemize. Like, this is incredibly blatant. The authors are, I mean, maybe not right now because people are super fucking pissed about J.K. Rowling, but like the author for Irresistible Urge to Fall for Enemy on her Instagram, she's using the Challengers meme of when like the two guys are kissing Zendaya, where it's Dramione over Zendaya, which like, don't get me started over. I will send you a
God.
What?
It is so.
I feel like I lost the train of this.
When did Zendaya?
Irresistible Urge, yeah. So it is like the authors themselves are using the fandom and the ship to market their book. So like you can't separate them.
I was just thinking that when did Zendaya get into the
So,
picture?
something else that gets me about this particular book choice, like, so I didn't realize this book was by Julia Soto. I'm actually really disappointed in that. I've read
You
one
should
of her
write to
other,
her and let her know.
I've read one of her other mainstream romance books, and I really enjoyed it. And I was going to pick up another recent one by her, and I was like, oh my God, I had no idea. The concept of this book you're talking about really squicks me out. I understand that is, it's a subgenre of romance. People enjoy that, and I'm not going to. I don't want to like make anybody feel ashamed or whatever for wanting to read that stuff. It's fiction, as long as it stays in your head, fine. But the idea of putting, whether it's related to a horrible person like J.K. Rowling or not, putting a romance novel with a sex slave plot in it in basically a mystery subscription box where people don't know that's what they're getting.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, that just seems like a really inappropriate choice, given you don't know who's going to receive that. Obviously,
yeah, exactly.
People are choosing, but
people also buy the gifts to other people.
Yeah. That just no, like some people are genuinely going to hate that. They're going to be offended by it, and they should be. That's how they feel. But if they're regifting it, they have no idea what they're regifting. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
See, I can speak to the degenerate opinion of people who actually kind of do enjoy reading stuff like that. The whole point
absolutely worse than Soap Dick.
Yeah. Oh my God, that takes me back.
Soap Dick at least was like really recognizably this is bad. Like, as soon as you open it, like, oh, okay.
And at least it led to something good. People were talking about like hygiene and why you should not do anything inappropriate with the Soap Dick.
Yeah.
Like, we learned something. But basically from another degenerate to potential other degenerates who enjoy that kind of stuff and read about it, consent is key. The whole point is that I can go to a bookstore and I can like check the contents of the book before I commit to buying it, and I'm like, oh, this is super ultra spicy and kind of like teetering on the like icky side of stuff, and I still choose to purchase it and read it. That's the whole point. But if when it's like, as you said, when it's a mystery box, there is like, you consent to buying something, but like especially because like in the past, like they have a past past history of prioritizing like YA or like very age demographic bending and bridging books that can be read both by adults and young adults. And I know for a fact that a lot of their customers are in the early 20-something range as well, or like mid 20s, you know. So it's like I'm not trying to yuck anybody's yum, but there's a lot of concerns I have here. Like
Yeah.
it's like I bought like a specific volumes of Berserk and wrapped them in a little like package and gave them to someone who is just getting into manga, and I'm like, here, you will enjoy these.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
no.
So, Caitlin's bringing up the Rosen Chains was a special edition, so like it's not in the box, but so it's outside. You would have to deliberately order this, but this is the Fairy Romantasy book box. Did a surprise Enslaved romance in their sub. This is Firebird by Juliet Cross, which is, we don't have time to go into that. Guys, I can give you the TLDR in our group chat. We are
I know all about this. I saw the drama on TikTok.
All right, I will say again, please email Illumicrate, let them know how disappointed you are in this decision and their inability to apologize. We are coming up on 45 past the hour, so we probably should talk about media and what we're reading. Who wants to talk about? And if folks want to talk more, feel free to poke me on Blue Sky. I will not be shutting up about this, because it, like, how Illumicrate has handled this has been incredibly disappointing. And I got my Illumicrate Song of the Lioness books from them the day I was banned. I have still to open the box. This was a set of books I was incredibly excited about, and I'm just so upset and disappointed at Illumicrate. I have not opened the box. It's just sitting in my living room, like hiding behind something. So, yeah.
Well, I can talk about books.
Please
first.
tell us what you've been reading.
Okay,
Rachel.
I've got quite a short list. I have not been reading much since the last regular live show, or since the Hugo live show. So, but that's what I want to talk about. I read All the Water in the World by Aaron Kaffel. I think this one's had a lot of hype about it. It's more of like a near future literary science fiction novel. I would definitely say it's quite literary. Not the usual thing I would pick up, but I thought it sounded interesting. It's basically, in the future, catastrophic climate change, New York City is completely drowned, and a group of people have been living for some years in the, oh my god, what's the big like natural history museum in New York City?
The American Museum of Natural History.
Amen.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. But then like a superstorm comes in and basically destroys everything that's left, so they have to leave. And the people who survive go on this trip up the Hudson River, trying to make it to some like farm in the country that 10 years ago they were gonna try to get to. So I thought it was really interesting if you knew the area. Like, I would be kind of curious, like if Kelsey were to read this, like you would probably.
I avoid stories about drowned New York City because I happen to know that where I live would absolutely be underwater, and it freaks me out.
Don't read this then. It's very clear about what gets drowned and who dies and all of that. So
Kelsey, Kelsey, if it's any consolation, I basically every single piece of media that has like Northern Europe and the Nordics like underwater, I also avoid, because where I live, I would be one of the first.
My dad sent me out of the blue, no context, via text message the other day. Hold on, this very low resolution map. I'm not going to show it because I don't tell people on the internet where I live other than New York City. But he sends me this very low resolution image of my neighborhood saying, will your building be in this area when the sea levels rise? I was like, yes.
Thanks, Dad, for pointing that out.
It is one of those maps of like, here is where the area of the city will be underwater, and like, is your building in this area?
So
I'm like,
far,
yes.
my part of the country does not play a role in a lot of climate change dystopic stuff, but it's going to happen because where I live is where people will eventually come when their water tables no longer have water. But I can see
the climate refugees.
Climate refugees where I live is going to be a thing until we all have to move north. But where I specifically live, my entire state would have to be underwater before my house would flood. So I'm slightly happy about that.
Yeah.
You're ready for me to move in with you when the waters come?
Hey, you can have my office space.
Third cat.
Yeah, I like, as someone who's in the Pacific Northwest, I'm just like passively waiting for the big one to hit.
I completely forgot the title of it, but I saw it at the indie bookstore yesterday. There is a book that just came out that is focused on like the big one in the Pacific Northwest and like the devastation of that whole side of the country. I find it fascinating. I don't live there, so I'm not terrified, but I kind of want to read it now. So just saying. It's coming for me though. Anyway, back to all the water in the world. I actually read most of this book with Google Maps open so that I could follow the route that the people were taking up the Hudson, including the fact that they end up on this one island where the Bannerman Castle is or something. It plays a part in the story, and I was like, is that a real place? It totally is a real place. So I thought the connection to the setting was interesting, but otherwise, for all the hype that this one has had, I don't think it really delivered on the parts of it that could have been truly, truly interesting. So there's a connection with like the author's personal life in this, that she has like an incurable kidney disease that, basically somebody with this condition in a catastrophe is going to die. They will not have the medical assistance they need to continue. And so a large part of this plot is about the mother of the main characters who has the same kidney issue. So there's this discussion of like traumatic events in childhood, PTSD, water phobia, and disability and chronic health conditions in a dystopia in this scenario. And there could have been also neurodivergence. It's never actually stated that the kid narrating the story is like autistic, but you can just tell with, everything that they're doing, the way they present themselves, that they almost certainly are. So I was expecting the story to really try to explore some of that. What does it mean for all these things, like trying to survive? And instead, it just turned into like a survival story where people are killed one by one. So it could have been more if it was a bit longer and if it wasn't quite so narrowly focused on just like the main character thinking about things. I guess the way that the story was structured, I think, kind of limited the fuller exploration of, frankly, the characters. Like there wasn't as much character depth as there could have been.
What was the name of this book again?
All the Water in the World by Erin Kaffel.
Okay.
So I did think it was an interesting story. It's definitely not one that I would recommend to just like hardcore sci-fi readers. If you enjoy a more contemporary literary approach to sci-fi topics, like if you liked Orbital by, what was it, Samantha Harvey or whatever, you'd probably like this one as well. That kind of thing. But I was very interested in reading it just because I thought it sounded so interesting. And before I get to the Hugo nominees, I also read Hamajang Luck.
Yeah.
By Makana Yamamoto. This came out last year, and it's a futuristic sci-fi heist novel with lots of augmented people and lots of trans characters and stuff. It was good fun. It kind of reminded me of, what was the gender flipped Ocean's 8 movie?
Ocean's
You
8.
mean Ocean's
Oh,
8?
they just called the same thing, did they?
Yeah,
Ocean's
No,
8.
Ocean's
11.
11 and Ocean's 12 and I think Ocean's 13 are the originals.
Okay.
And then Ocean's 8
Ocean's
is
8
the
was the
So Ocean, that is the name of it then? Okay. I used to have a box set of the Ocean's 11 like trilogy. I freaking love those movies. I'm sad I don't have them anymore.
have I don't know if this is the time for this story.
Oh wait, yes, you have a personal connection to this, don't you?
I worked as a background extra on Ocean's 8. I don't
Oh, I
think you
didn't
can
know
see me
this.
in
Oh, I
any
love
shots in
that.
the final cut of the film, but I was there for an entire week when we were filming at the Met Museum for all of the gala scenes. So like I was in a fancy dress as like a gala guest, and
Cool.
they barely used me. It was one of those situations where you're a background extra and mostly you end up just sitting and reading a book, which fine by me. And yeah, so I was there for like 5 nights shooting overnight because the museum was open during the day.
I love
Yeah.
it.
So my
I
fun
remember talking about
connection to Ocean's 8 is like, yeah, I was there. I saw some of these scenes being filmed. I was there just off camera, like 10 feet that way in some of those scenes.
Yeah. So yeah, for some reason it really reminded me of that, mainly because it's mostly a heist carried off by the similar type of characters in those roles, women, non-binary characters, trans characters, that sort of thing. I thought it was a really interesting world. I think it's another book that kind of suffered from not as much characterization, maybe because, like Ocean's 8, there are so many characters. There's a very large crew, and at a certain point, it's just all these scenes are so many people talking, and you don't have enough time to really understand all of them. But it was still good. Like, I really enjoyed this. I would definitely read more by this author in the future. I thought, like, for a debut novel, this was pretty dang solid, especially for having such a complex plot. Like, I think writing heists and mysteries and these sorts of things are pretty hard to come up with. So I enjoyed that, even if it didn't have quite as much depth. And then I read 2 of the Hugo nominees. I read The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett, and I just really loved this one. I just enjoyed reading it. And I think I talked about this a little bit in our last live show when I started reading it, but it is, it's a fantasy mystery, and I just really love SFF mystery genre. You get a good plot, a good murder mystery in that kind of setting, and I'm going to really enjoy it as long as the world building isn't crap. And I really liked this one. And the main characters, so basically it follows a young man who's become, very suddenly after cheating in school, basically, the assistant to basically an imperial investigator who's been banished to an outer district of the empire. And a really horrific and strange murder happens, and they get sucked into it and into this whole world of very rich people and contagions. And also at the same time, they're all trying to not die because gigantic kaiju leviathans are coming over the walls. So yeah. But I really liked the main character. He's very subtle. I didn't really appreciate him until like 2/3 of the way through the book, where you get some really intense scenes, and I was like, I like this guy. He's actually competent.
Love a competent character.
Yes.
Competent, you know. It was a bit surprising because you don't think that he's not very confident in what he's doing. He's just been completely thrown to the wolves, and he thinks at any moment he's going to be revealed for like the fraud that he is. And it's like, no, actually, you're not terrible at this. You might be able to keep doing it. But there's a really intense scene where it's like the resisting temptation scene that made me go, oh, he's got a backbone. And I really liked that, combined with the fact that by the end of the novel, you realize he might have a bit of a queer romance coming his way. And I was like, this completely surprised me. I wasn't expecting that from this author. I haven't really kept up with his other books, so I didn't know what he would be writing.
I do think the Foundry Side series, I think, has at least some queer rep in, not the main character, but like I think it does have some queer side
I read
characters.
the first book, but it was years ago. I never continued with the story, so I just don't remember that much about it. But also the investigator lady is wild. Like, she's just nuts but brilliant and very entertaining. She spends most of the book blindfolded and asking people just ridiculously personal questions. It's great. So this was like a 5-star book for me based on just the experience. It was well plotted, solidly written, good characters. I immediately put the next book on hold. I think it came out at the beginning of April. So I'm really glad that I tried this one. I would not have even known that this book really existed if it hadn't made the shortlist. So I'm glad to have one fun discovery here. Last year for me, it was the S.A. Chakraborty novel. The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi or whatever. So yeah. Oh, Ori. Yeah, I remember that about The City of Stairs now. That and Foundry Side are the only other 2 books I've read by him. So I remember the discussion around that. Yeah. So yeah, if anybody is like, what do I read from the Hugo shortlist? I would recommend The Tainted Cup. So I also read The Ministry of Time by Callianne Bradley, which is weird AF. Please tell me somebody else here has read it. And like,
I have not, but that's mostly because I am waiting for my hold to come in. I've heard.
I have no excuses. I bought it months ago, and I still.
My friend Jenny loves it. I have other friends who are like, this book was terrible. So I'm like very interested to read it for myself to see where on the spectrum I fall.
Yeah, I have no excuses. I've owned it for months and I still haven't read it. Whoops.
I was incredibly entertained by this book. And I find myself a little bit conflicted about it, mainly because the author's been very clear. This story started as fan fiction about an Arctic explorer who disappeared. She saw a picture of him taken shortly before he disappeared, famous thing, and was like, he's attractive. I'm sitting at home in the middle of the pandemic. I'm just gonna write a story about this guy. And part of me is like, it feels like there's a little bit of boundary crossing there. She ends up writing a story that absolutely is inventing things about this person that we just don't know much about. But I also liked that she's really clear about that. She really talks about that in like the afterword to the story, that like this was like meant for her. She really never intended anybody outside of like family and friends to know about this, but then she really enjoyed writing it, and she knows she was making things up about it. I don't think that it's really different from what authors do when they're writing historical fiction. It's just that this guy isn't like from 600 years ago. He's from the 1830s or 40s, I guess. So it's a little bit more recent.
But even like thinking of historical fiction I've read back when I was reading a lot of historical fiction, like there is a lot of historical fiction that just like wildly makes stuff up about historical figures to put them in romances with protagonists, and like
You can say Philippa Gregory.
actually yes, I did read what I was in college. Oh my
So there is the
goodness.
speaking of
Philippa Gregory in so many years, but yes.
speaking of historical fiction, like not only like, here's the thing, you can play fast and loose with the historical setting. I think like if it's historical fiction, there's like there's like some leniency, but there are some things like one of the most egregious pieces of historical fiction that I think are absolutely dreadful, in terms of like where the invention of things are actively harmful, like The Boy in the Striped Pajamas comes to mind. Like that
Yeah,
that
that one.
like
Mhm.
seriously invents things and sympathizes with the Nazis in a way that is like actively harmful, so much so that the Institute for Holocaust and the Auschwitz Museum had to come out and publicly be like, please do not support this book.
So yeah, I really enjoyed the story. I think it was another one that was well written. Like Kellyanne Bradley knew what she was doing with like the pacing and throwing things in there. Like you know where it's going, but you'll want to see it happen. It's also just completely off the rails in some way. There's time travel. There's people plucked out of time and then like educated to exist in the 21st century. There's secret government plots. There might be time travel agents trying to kill everybody. And then it's all wrapped up in like, hey, a modern Cambodian British woman is falling for a guy who's like 150 years old and might have been super racist when he was in his original time. And like the conflict of that, like, is she even going to tell him what her ancestry is? Like, how will he, react
I'll be right
to
back.
that? The whole thing about the main character being Cambodian and her mother's family mainly like being killed in like the Pol Pot years and stuff is, I believe, based on the author's real life family experience. So there's a ton of kind of commentary and like self-insertion happening in there as well. I think actually it ends up making the main character of the novel come across pretty badly in places, which is why I think it's also interesting that it's been described as self-insertion. If it is, Bradley is not trying to sugarcoat things that she herself has thought or done or whatever. So I thought that was very interesting. So yeah, it was just wild. And if there's any criticism I really have of this other than just being kind of wacky, which I thought was fun, is the sci-fi aspect of it. Like the reason why it would be on a Hugo shortlist is because it's a time travel novel. And obviously there are people who will hotly debate about whether time travel is really science fiction. I think historically it is considered science fiction within like the Hugos and the Nebula Award communities and stuff. But the way that the sci-fi aspect was used in this story, it's really just a device. It doesn't feel like science fiction. It was we got to throw something in here so that we can have these two people at the same time in the same place, and there's no real explanation for how any of this works, which for me as a more like hard SF reader, I expect more than that. So it's another one that like I think it was more enjoyable because I stopped thinking of it as a science fiction novel and I started thinking of it more as like literary historical romance. So
Good to know.
And that's all I've read.
I could go next because I don't have a lot, and except for obviously Sinners, but like in terms of books, I have finished roughly 5 volumes of A Sign of Affection in the past month, because like I finally decided to hop back in. I had previously read I think 4 volumes, and now I'm like, the latest volume I read was 9. So I'm almost caught up with the series. It's cute. It's wholesome. The series basically, like, it's a manga series that basically is focusing on the university / college life of this deaf protagonist who falls in love with like an upperclassman, like a guy who is like a couple of years older than her, and who is hearing. And then it kind of details their relationship, how they start dating, how he starts learning sign language in order to communicate with her and stuff. It's super wholesome. It also has a very cute anime adaptation that is really beautifully animated and stuff. So if you want an anime recommendation, would highly recommend. I will say that I'm not sometimes the biggest fan of the main male character. Like, he's fine, but at the same time, I'm like, if I met this person in real life, I would want to punch him in the face, because I'm like, what do you mean you just decide on behalf of someone that we're gonna do things? And like, I'm just like, no. Like, my main gripe is that like, Yuki, the main character, does not really seem to be in full control of her own life. Everything is kind of like, she's kind of going with the flow. And even though the series very much is like, no, I want to be better, I want to do things, and I'm like, then why don't you? Like, why is every single decision that you are making about your life about this guy? Like, why is everything surrounding the guy? Why are you not making decisions because you want to live your life this way?
I think the feeling I get from that relationship is that because she is so presented as just going along with it, as like, this is a good thing, I should be doing this, is that at no point do I ever feel like she would actually stand up for herself and say no.
Yeah, that's
Like,
like,
contort herself into saying yes.
and especially because she seemed like every single time there's even a point of conflict, she is always rescued from having that conflict, either by oh my god, either by her boyfriend or Oshi, who are basically the two rivals in love for her heart. And I'm like, it's just okay. I always do this. I'm like, oh, it's so cute and romance. Now let me go on a 10-minute rant about why I dislike this thing, but I still enjoy it. And then the other thing that I'm currently reading is Wooing the Witch Queen by Stephanie Burgess.
I just read that.
I believe Kelsey, you were reading this at one point,
Yeah,
and I decided to.
That, and I still have to post my review, but
yeah, and I'm enjoying this. I'm like, this, the main like, both of the main characters are like I just want to hug them, and I'm like, I'm so sorry you've had to go through that, but at the same time I'm like, and now kiss. Like, I also like love an introverted queen.
Yeah,
and the main female lead is like she's just like, can I just be alone and do my own stuff and focus on my special interest, please?
So this was like a really strong 3-star for me, just because there were some like writing things that annoyed me. There's like, instead of M dashes, there's a lot of ellipses, and I'm just like,
yeah.
You can cut this out. You can cut this out. And there was some like world building stuff that I like, to me, felt a little thin, but I really loved the characters.
Yeah, I will say that, like, I also like, I really like the characters. What I don't really like is that, like, I feel like sometimes when she's having like conversations, there's a lot of exposition where I'm like, you wouldn't be telling this person this because you already know her or know them, and they have all of the context of the world and all of that stuff. So why am I getting exposited in dialogue about what is going on in the world, you should both have this information already.
Yeah.
So I will say that the way that the story is exposited at times feels a bit shallow, because like you kind of get like you are in the middle of a story. There's been a whole war that has happened, but because that is not necessarily the main point of the story, the author is trying to give you context, and sometimes the context is given quite clumsily, but I'm still enjoying it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like why I ended up with like a strong 3 stars. I also just really love how it's kind of flipping the dynamics we see a lot with romantasy, where it's like the powerful black magic queen who is like the strong one, and like the man is the one like going to her for protection. I love that it's flipping the dynamics, and I'm like, yes, I don't need a shadow daddy, I need a witch mommy.
Yeah, I really enjoy that as well. And I'm actually currently playing chicken with the library about like which comes first, the ultimate fines when I inevitably fail to finish this in time to return it by the due date. But I still have tomorrow. I'm making good progress. So
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It was a fun read. So I'm glad you're also liking it.
And those are pretty much the only things I'm currently reading. I just got finished importing all of the Hugo Voter packet stuff on my e-reader. So
I need to do that.
So
I've made a terrible mistake.
What did you do?
So before I started this, one of the things I did before we started the live stream in my prep was, I had to figure out which was the right side and which was the wrong side of the lacy trim, because I need the right side facing out. And they look so similar, but one of them is clearly the front and one of them is the back. I think I got it wrong which one is which.
That happens sometimes. I'm sorry.
I've hand sewed this much already, which does not look like a lot, but it is hand sewing, and like I was proud of my little stitches, but I think I have to tear it out.
It's gonna bug you. If it's already bugging you now, it's gonna bug you even
the
worse.
two sides look so similar, but one of them is neater than the other, and you can like see the lighting changed outside, and now I can see it all bright and lit up, and I'm like, no, I got it wrong.
But sorry. Yeah, that's basically what I have been reading. And do I just let someone else go next, or do I talk about Sinners at this point?
Let me or Kelsey go next. I also have some media I want to talk about as well, but you can go first with Sinners when we get to media. Kelsey, do you want to talk about what you've been reading?
Not me, because I have a big mistake to fix right now, and I'm working.
Okay, I can talk about what I've been reading. So I already talked a little bit about Wooing the Witch Queen, but some other stuff. Last night I read The River Has Roots by Amal El-Mohtar, and I loved this. It's just like perfect bite-sized fantasy retelling of the Trois Sisters fairy tale, and I love how she modified and did the changes, and like the language is really beautiful, and I like the hints that we get at the wider world. Like if she wrote something else set like in the same world, I would read it in a heartbeat, just because like the hints of what we get are really intriguing. So this book is about 2 sisters whose family has like traditionally tended these magical willow trees, and they're singers. And the other thing that's like so nice about this book is like it has these beautiful illustrations.
Ooh, who is the illustrator for the inside pages?
The illustrator is Kathleen Neely. And it's just, this was such a good novella. I really loved it. I would really recommend it. It's I need to know what the word count is, but this is 100% going on my Hugo noms for next year, just because it was so good. It was so beautiful and like lush. And I've heard the audiobook version has music that's performed by Amal and her sister.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I loved this. I really recommend picking it up.
Do you think it would be a good one to listen to the audiobook of?
I think so. I'm gonna grab the audiobook version because I want to listen to the music.
I have a Libro FM credit that I need
Do
to
it.
burn.
And then the other two books that I haven't talked about yet, I read The Best of All Possible Worlds by Karen Lord. So I'm doing the Magical Readathon. I'm still doing Thread Mage, and so all of the books that I've read are for those prompts. So this one had been on my shelf, and one of the prompts was like, look at the time, how like the hour is how many words or letters the title has to have. So I had looked at like 6 something p.m. So it was 6 words, and this has 6 words in the title, and I liked this one. So this is set, it's sci-fi, but it's like, I don't know if anyone here has read it. I had picked it up because Angela at Literature Science Alliance like, this is one of her favorite books. She talks about it a lot. So I picked it up kind of based off of that.
Yeah, I know she loves it, and I think she liked the sequel Galaxy game too. I haven't read it, but I loved The Best of All Possible
I
Worlds.
really liked it. It's,
Yeah.
I would say it's not cozy. It's like travelogue sci-fi kind of, where like the inciting incident is there's this genocide against this people, and the refugees are kind of scattered. It actually it's not listed as an inspiration, but it kind of reminds me of like what happened with the Vulcans in the Star Trek reboot movies with Chris Pine.
Mm. Yeah.
Like it really did remind me of that. Anyway, so some of the refugees settle on this planet. I think it's Cygnus Beta. And our main character, Grace, she's this government liaison, and her and a man from, his name is also, I didn't listen to it, so I don't know how it's pronounced. It's like Lenak. They like go on this journey around the planet to find potential other populations of this people who had the genocide committed against them. And it's a travelogue, it's a love story, it's a discussion about like ethics. I really liked it. I think my only like main criticism is there were certain things that happened that didn't feel like there was enough follow-up on. There's like 2 kind of incidents where I would have liked more, or like it moved on from that pretty quickly, and it was kind of hard to see the impact.
My recollection, because it's been some years since I've read it, but my recollection is that it did kind of dip in and out of events. Like there would be time skips and such in the narrative as things happened. So yeah. I loved the romance, like the love story.
Oh, the romance was so good. It was like
It was
slow burn and like
good.
the yearning.
Yeah.
It was so good. I actually did pick up the Galaxy. I have a small haul from my indie bookstore day yesterday that I'm going to show off. I actually did get the Galaxy game as part of that. One of my indies sells books that were on Remainder, and they actually had a copy, so I snagged it.
Lucky.
And then the last book that I have read is The Dawn Hounds by Sasha Stronach. This is like
Oh, I have that as well.
I think you would really like this, Raya. I think this is a book you would really like.
See, I kind of figure that I would like it. That's why I have it on ebook. And I just like it. It's just like it just goes on the pile, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna read this. This sounds just like my jam. And then years later, maybe this year I will actually do it.
Which book?
The Dawn Hounds.
Okay, so I think I also have an ebook, but it was a like self-published version.
It was self-pub, because
before.
I remember people talking about it during Con Zealand, because there
Wasn't it? I thought it was part of the packet because they
Yeah, it was the
part of
Vogel
the
packet.
Vogel
Yeah.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
Saga Press picked it up.
Do you know if the TradPub version is significantly different, or
I do not.
Okay, if anyone knows, I would like to know, because I think that ebook version
Yeah,
was
I
the
think I
self-pub
also have the trad pub, self-pub version.
Anyway, I really enjoyed this. I really like the characters. I thought the world building was really interesting. It's kind of like tech versus biopunk. The country that our main character comes from was colonized, and it's kind of like what happens after the revolution. There's a big all cops are bastards element kind of woven through, and like talking about state repression and the church's involvement in state repression, and like queer, like finding community with other queer folks. I think the only complaint that I have about this, there were times where the story beats moved too quickly, and I would have liked to see it's like, I don't think it could have been significantly longer, but I think like 15 to 20 extra pages would have given some of the developing relationships room to breathe more, because it moves very, very quickly, and I would have liked to see more on-page development for like why this character suddenly trusts these people. So other than that, I really loved this. I really would recommend it. I picked up book 2, and I'm hoping to maybe read it in the next few months. So again, Ray, I 100% think you'll love this book. This is very much like a Raya coded book.
Is it actually a series, or is the first book
It's a series. So book 2 is The Sun Forge, and I think book 3 is coming out within the next year or so.
Okay.
And then the book I'm currently reading, I'm actually reading this on audio, but The Gilded Crown by Marianne Gordon. This is not a romantasy. Don't let the cover fool you. It's more.
Oh, I've heard good things about that one.
I'm enjoying it. It's about this young woman who can kind of walk into death and bring people back, but there is a payment. She will lose parts of herself every time she brings someone back, and when she brings back the dead princess and only heir to the realm, she gets pulled in to politics. I'm a little less than halfway through, and there's a lot of like really meaty family dynamics. Our main character, Helvier, has a really complicated relationship with her mother, who she saved from death but couldn't save like her baby sister. There's like, I know there's going to be kind of like a relationship between Helvier and the princess, but it's definitely going to be complicated because there's like some really sticky power dynamics happening. And I think how the book conceptualizes death is also kind of interesting. So I want to see how this ends. The second book just came out. It's a duology, but right now I'm really enjoying it. So yeah, that is what I have been reading. Kelsey, what about you?
Okay, I am emotionally recovered from my terrible sewing mistake enough to discuss what I am reading.
I feel like the hardest part of fixing mistakes is ripping it out.
Yeah.
Like
And then I had to go iron it the other way around, but which is why I disappeared for a bit. But yes, so mostly I accidentally started rereading all the Murderbot books after the trailer for the TV show dropped.
Oh yeah, the trailer.
Accident.
This was not part of the plan, and I initially told myself I will just reread the first novella before the show drops. This is a perfect plan, except I forget. I willfully forget that these books are like potato chips. You can't just eat one. And so it has been my month of Martha Wells, because I started this right on at the end of reading The Edge of Worlds, which is the 4th Raxura novel. Is that right? Yeah, and then
the next one is the last one, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I'm so close to finishing the Raxura series, but am I reading the last one? No, I'm rereading all the Murderbot.
But it's still Wells, so
yeah, it's just not getting me any closer to finishing the Raxura books. But yeah, before I tripped and fell and accidentally started a full 7-book Murderbot reread, I actually did read a number of things worth talking about since our last stream. Let's go to Goodreads. Oh, that's not loading. Okay. So where were we when we last talked? We were about to start the trans rights readathon, but then I think, did I talk about Sword Crossed on our last stream?
No, you did not.
Okay, so I read Sword Crossed by Freya Marsk, which is a standalone, I think. I don't know if it'll get sequels or other books set in the same world, but the story is a standalone. And it's a fantasy romance in a secondary world with no magic. And it was so interesting to me because comparing it to the Last Binding trilogy, those were books where I was deeply invested in all of the romance dynamics between the characters, but then was kind of unconvinced by this like historical fantasy situation. And I was really excited to see, okay, well, what can this author do in a secondary fantasy world? And I'm very pleased to report that, like, I thought this was an interesting secondary fantasy world. I was less invested in the romance. I just, like, I was invested in the characters while I was reading it, but then, like, after reading it, they haven't stuck with me. Like, I don't feel passionately that they belong together for life or anything. But what's kind of interesting about the world building is that there's a sense in which I'm pretty sure this book must at least partially be inspired by Swords Point and that non-magical fantasy world, except that, like, instead of the dueling being like very serious life and death, this is how you kill people, it's like, well, maybe it once was like that, you know, a couple centuries ago or like decades ago, but nowadays, like, society has changed and we don't actually expect to have to kill anyone with the duels.
So what are the stakes then?
So the stakes are that there is this sort of formal duel that's going to happen, except we are expecting that there's going to be a challenge at this, like a sword fighting challenge at this wedding where someone is actually going to take it seriously and trying to, you know, fight the duel and stop the wedding, which is not normal. No one normally expects this. I did feel there was significantly less sword fighting than I was expecting in this book, and significantly more economics of the textile industry.
Well, I mean, that's interesting.
So I feel like this is a book for the Stitch and Bitch crowd.
I have almost read this book. I think I've had it checked out from the library twice, and every time I do, the librarian comments on how pretty the sprayed edges are.
Yes, the protagonist is one of the protagonists is from like a merchant family that are wool merchants, and like the whole plot is about, you know, figuring out who has it out for the wool merchant family and is tanking their business. So lots of textile production. and then there's also some silk going on.
Now, would you say that this is good, well thought out, makes sense economically textile production, or somebody's fantasy version of textile production that just makes people like me be like, just stop?
I need you to read the book and tell me. That's what I'm coming to, because like I know a slightly decent amount about sewing, but I don't actually know about like fabric production and weaving and wool fiber or anything.
Like, if you're in the wool industry in a secondary world that's like not super high tech, I expect that there needs to be some discussion of the economics of how many sheep do you have and where the hell are they, because you need a lot of sheep to make wool fabric.
There's
Yes.
there's a plot around like a certain kind of wool that might potentially be imported from a certain place where they have the certain sheep. But
now I want to know if this is like somebody decided to introduce Saxon Merino into the
I need you to tell me. I need you to
and
read it and
everybody
tell me
was
if it's
pissed
accurate.
because they're like, this is not a native sheep. Also, this is a terrible kind of wool for hardy fabrics. Like,
I finished the embroidery part.
yay!
Woo!
It is done. Now I just need to do the finishing so that it doesn't look like this on the back. This is like the meme, how I appear to other people in public and how I feel inside.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is I need to read Sword Cross, but I can only review the textile production parts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then what else did I read? Yeah, but the thing I really did like about the world building, and that was the sort of sense that this was maybe a world that had more high stakes stuff going on and like more strict gender norms in the past, but that this was a sort of more enlightened era, but there's still like remnants of those past traditions kind of lingering in society. And it's sort of dealing with that. But then it was the trans rights readathon. I only read one of my books I had marked out for that during the readathon, which was The Four Profound Weaves by R.B. Lemberg, which is very interesting. I don't know.
That one.
It's very good.
I love that one.
There's something about the style of it that I couldn't figure out if I liked or not, and I still can't put my finger on it. It's not like lyrical writing in the sense of the type of lyrical writing I usually like. That's a little like, I like slightly more flowery writing, but it does feel kind of heightened without being wordy or flowery. And it's a desert fantasy with two older trans characters that's kind of about the intersections between culture and gender, among other things.
Yeah,
and
and also culture and tradition and finding your place within like your like going back to your like ancestry and stuff, like how you fit in within your culture.
Yeah. And then there's the random overthrow of a tyrant, which felt rather abrupt, but we always like a good overthrow of a tyrant.
I'm also like at some point I was like, surely an overthrow of a tyrant requires more foreshadowing, but like but like at the same time,
it's like
I sometimes feel like tyrants sort of come and go without much warning.
Yeah.
Or rather, people are blind to the several warnings that happen over the course of years.
I mean, I would like to just be on a social media break and come back one day and be like, hey, what did you do in my absence?
Anyways, and then during the Trans Rights Readathon, I also started reading The Sapling Cage, but I didn't finish it until after it was over. But I liked The Sapling Cage. I would recommend it. It's supposed to be the first book in a trilogy, but it works as a standalone.
Okay.
It seems from how it ends, that maybe the other books in the series are meant to follow like other characters that are introduced in this book. That's just my theory. It was one of those books where, knowing it was the first book in a trilogy, I kind of expected it to not get very far in the plot, and then was kind of surprised when suddenly like the big climax of the plot was happening, because it really felt for a lot of it like it was just sort of like we're camping in the woods with the witches, having coming of age stuff, which was great. I loved that. And then, you know, what ends up being the plot is simmering in the background the whole time. And you know, I found the pacing of it pretty satisfying. And I thought it's about, I should talk about what the book is about. It's about a trans girl who takes her friend's place, her friend in the village where she's grown up, has been promised to the witches, that she's supposed to become an apprentice to the witches. And the witches are like traveling women who kind of keep the balance in this world, but they often get villainized, as witches do. And so she goes off with the witches, like horribly concerned that they're gonna kick her out if they find out she's a boy. And you know, stuff happens with the other apprentices as they all are, you know, traveling in the woods, and there's this blight happening in the forest, and maybe people using bad magic, and the witches are being framed for it as they go from place to place. And I sort of liked the travel journey style of it, going from place to place, having different things happen, but it felt character driven in a way I really liked. I would say the protagonist is a teenager, and it did feel YA-ish. Like I wouldn't have batted an eye had this been published as YA. So it's, you know, something that I think would be fine to give to a teenager if you're looking for stuff for teens. Yeah, I enjoyed it. I would keep an eye out for book 2. I don't know if it's happening or when.
Is this from an adult imprint though, so not eligible, for
It's
example, for Lodestar?
It's from a publisher that doesn't usually do SFF at all. It's from the Feminist Press at City University of New York. So
okay.
It's from a feminist publisher, and they, you know, they're marketing it as a feminist fantasy. So I would not nominate it for the Lodestar, no. I would consider it to be published as adult.
Cool.
And then I started on my Major Martha Wells spree with The Edge of Worlds, and then all the Murderbot. I will say The Edge of Worlds I didn't like as much as the first 3 novels. I think having gone straight from that into a bunch of Murderbot, I like Martha Wells best when she manages to like integrate the emotional plot with the action plot.
Yeah.
And in the first 3 books, for me, it felt like both the emotional plot and the action plot were happening, but sort of on parallel tracks.
I feel like
and-
on Edge of Worlds, you can kind of see that there was not a significant, but there was a decent sized gap between publication of like the previous set of novels, and then she had the short stories and stuff. But like because like Edge of World, I think feels more than anything setup. Like it's a lot of setup for the actual like major like
Yeah.
conclusion to the series.
It felt
So
like
so I
it was-
understand it's
it
not
was-
the
it was
most satisfying.
all plot, and I feel like the main emotional plot arc of the first 3 books is about, will Moon be able to stay permanently at Indigo Cloud Colony? Like, does he get to live there happily ever after? And like the answer is yes. By the end of those 3 books, we've got that. And we don't have in Edge of Worlds a particularly compelling start to a new emotional arc. We're just enjoying seeing all our favorite characters again.
I think there isn't really an emotional arc to be had in terms of like it isn't internal to the characters more so than the world at large, because I think the main through line of the last 2 books is basically what happens with the Fel. Will the Raksura as a whole, as a species, be able to live in peace? And like what is gonna happen? Yeah. So in that sense, it's the last 2 books are a little bit divorced from the world of the characters, rather focusing on the like overarching world plot. So it isn't as intimate.
I feel like Murderbot, having jumped from there to Murderbot, I really do feel like all of the Murderbot books do that so well, because they have all of them such high stakes action going on, and yet you are always deeply invested in Murderbot's personal story arc. That is, compared to even all the previous Raksura books I've read, jumping into that, my Murderbot reread from having reread, or from having just read all of the Raksura books, save the last one. I do feel like that's something that Murderbot does better than any of the Raksura, is integrating those 2 plot lines in a way that makes sense. Because like in the novellas, you have like every little adventure that Murderbot has, one after the other, that like brings it to a different point in its understanding of what it wants. Because like the whole story arc so far in Murderbot is like, what do you want, Murderbot? And each book has its own little adventure, and Murderbot comes away with a different understanding of what it wants.
She was likely writing them partially at the same time.
Yeah,
because the Harbors of the Sun came out in 2017, and the first Murderbot came out on the same year.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to quickly talk about, because we have about 15-ish minutes left. Do we want to
Oh
talk
no.
about...
Sorry.
I mean, we
Can
can
we
go
go
a
over
little
time,
long.
or
Like
do
we
we
did,
have
we
to-
did dedicate 45 minutes to my Illumicrate rant. So like if folks are okay going a little long, we can.
I can go a little over time, but I
can go a little over time.
I can go about 15 minutes over time because I do have to bake cake today.
Okay.
So media.
Yeah. Let's have Rhea go first, because I'm totally fine with not really talking about mine. I want to hear what they have to say about Sinners.
So well, first of all, I have done a whole, like I first of all I binged Solo Leveling season 2, which I'm not gonna talk about because I think like Solo Leveling 2, the only like Solo Leveling as a series, I only enjoy it because the animation is just goated. It's like S tier animation. It's absolutely beautiful. The plot is absolute garbage. Like it is the basically the idea that you have a character that is weak and due to circumstances dies and comes back and is essentially levels up to become all powerful in a world where people born with magical abilities usually are skill capped, and he's just like, you know, living his best life, leveling up and like being like super OP, and that is boring. Like it is absolutely like the most boringest way to write a character is like, here is a character who has no redeeming qualities whatsoever and no personality and is just here to smack shit. So not gonna talk about Solo Leveling too much, other than it is a mediocre series. I don't understand why it is super popular, and I think it's popular mostly because the soundtrack slaps and the animation is good. So can't really recommend it, other than if you have like 3 hours to kill and want to watch it, then you can. Like for one season is about 3 to 4 hours of watch time. That said, Sinners. I went to the movies and to watch Sinners, as one does, and it is one of the like best movie experiences that I have had in a long time. It like the cinematography, the way the movie is shot, like every single frame tells you something about the characters. Like for example, when like Michael B. Jordan plays a dual role, he plays a set of twins in the movie, and there is a scene, for example, where where one of the twins goes to the town to get like supplies and stuff, and you can see like the way the town is segregated into like white and black like catered businesses, because the movie takes place in 1932 in Jim Crow, Mississippi, and it's such like it's so well shot, and there like you don't get a lot of explanation on why things are the way they are. It is just shown to you the way people are doing business, the way people are acting, like the way extras are acting around each other, like the white extras versus the black extras and stuff. You just like pay attention to these little like microaggressions and macroaggressions that are happening on the background with the background characters. It's just super amazing world building in just like on a cinematography level. So good. And then the music, it like Sinners is essentially kind of a musical without being a musical. The music is such an integral part of what the story is about. And it also ties in the like the colonial struggles of like the Irish experience with the British like England colonizing Ireland, and then how that kind of has parallels with the Black experience in the United States, as well as also the like colonizing and oppression faced by the native populations. So it kind of brings in these myths from all of these different cultures and kind of finds parallels between them. Specifically the vampire myth, and it's just so good. Like I basically I'm thinking of like next week going to watch it again, just so I can just look at all of the stuff happening in the background even more now that I've seen it, so that I can like fully appreciate it. And I don't really remember when was the last time I wanted to do that I wanted to see a movie in theaters again, like immediately. It was so fucking good. like I'm obsessed. I have been listening to the soundtrack nonstop since I saw the movie. Like, and that's saying something. Sleep Token dropped a new single this week, and Ghost dropped a new album, and I was still listening to the Sinners soundtrack. So you know it's good.
Insert discussion about Damocles, though, because I mean,
Oh, Damocles is so good. Like, I
I'm
still
gonna
think,
listen to the Sinner soundtrack and see which one I would put on repeat.
yeah, yes, the Chinese salespeople that actually have two separate stores, one for black people and one for white people, like on the opposite sides of the street. So they basically profit both of the like from the white black population of the town. It's really interesting. Also, the idea that the vampirism itself is kind of a metaphor for like cultural appropriation, and the fact that the vampires want the culture. They specifically come because they are attracted to Sammy's like music and his prowess on the guitar and his singing. They are attracted to the culture, and they want the stories, and they want the culture, and that is kind of the idea that they are essentially like parasitic, like they want it but they do not contribute to it, and they don't give like agency and ownership, because like once you become a vampire, you're part of the hive mind. You kind of become assimilated into the like essentially the mainstream. Like you become assimilated to part of the white culture, essentially, even though the even like if I think about like stuff that people are talking about, like Gen Z slang, which is just like AAVE, essentially. Like it is like these slang words that Gen Z and Gen Alpha use that are essentially just black vernacular and stuff, but it's like been assimilated so much into the main the dominant culture that it loses all meaning and stuff. It's like seriously like really good, and it's so subtle about it. Like I just can't. Like I enjoyed it so much.
You're making me want to watch this.
It's
I'm worried it'd be too scary for me, though.
okay. So in my opinion,
This
I'm
week.
someone who like I can deal with gore, but I'm not like I get really antsy about like psychological horror and stuff.
Yeah, the like
And to
really
me,
intense suspense or jump scare stuff. I can't.
I feel like there's like two to three like jump scares at the beginning of the movie, and then it eases into like the horror elements, I think, are more like in the connections that you make about the movie's themes to the real life like the real life parallels, essentially. Like that's where you kind of like see the horror, and also the historical horror, because it is in the Jim Crow South. The vampires are not the most horrific element in the movie, in my opinion.
I would kind of expect that based on the theme.
Yeah, but it's like I would say that it's not like super scary, but like just know that in the beginning portion of the movie, like especially at the very beginning, like the opening sequence, there are like a couple jump scares that might take you off guard. But like it's really good, and I'm definitely gonna be nominating it for like next year's Hugo for the long form presentation, and I will be so miffed.
Short list. I would like that is one where I would like I don't do horror, and I don't know if I'm gonna get a chance to see it this week, because this week is a little hectic for me, and I wasn't able to do it this weekend or last weekend, but I'm hoping next weekend I can do a double header of Thunderbolts and Sinners.
Yeah, like Sinners, so good. Definitely like gonna be nominated, and I'm gonna be so salty if it doesn't crack the like it's so good, like so good. I really hope it does well, and now it might even have a chance at the Oscars now that they changed the rules that every single voting member has to watch the movies.
I know
That
the fact that they didn't have
and I'm
that
like,
before.
I was like, why would you tell on yourself?
My favorite is
This
Kirsten
bad.
Dunst basically being like, "Of course I've watched them all," and it's like, you don't know how rare that is, girl.
It's like well, it's also like if you think about it, like in terms of like Hugo votership, like how many people read all of the Hugo stuff?
But books take so much more time to read than movies take to watch.
That is true, but then again, I also do the thing where I generally try not to vote in the categories where I have not read anything.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just me. But it's just like Sinners is absolutely friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for the video essayists, like Princess Weeks better
Oh,
have
they're
have
gonna
a
have-
video of
gonna
on
have
Sinners at some
video.
point.
All right. I mean, I have media, but does anyone else have media?
I will just briefly say that I'm finally watching Andor. I should be finishing season 1 this evening, so
Season 2 just dropped.
That's
I got
actually part
sucked
of my
into it when
media.
the first 3 episodes were available for free on YouTube, and then I bought it on DVD and was like, "Hey, parents, our Sunday night viewing is just gonna be Andor until we're done with this."
Yeah, I'm like, so there's like now with Andor, and also because like Disney is the distributor for the anime Heavenly Delusion, which is supposed to be really good. So I might have to take Disney subscription again.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
avoiding that. I would rather wait until things come out on DVD. So I might get around to The Mandalorian.
Oh!
I realize I can get the DVDs on
I
eBay.
do need to
Speaking
buy
of
a
speaking
DVD
of
copy before.
DVDs, I'm actively going to buy the physical the Blu-ray for Sinners. Like I'm also contemplating on getting the like soundtrack on vinyl, because why not?
I have questions about the rise in popularity of vinyl. Like, where do you even buy a record player these days?
You can buy it like at Best Buy.
Yeah, I bought mine in a local like audio store.
Yeah.
Oh. Huh, okay.
Yeah, so I have been watching Andor. I watched the first 3 episodes, and
No
no
spoilers.
spoilers. It's very good. I will say there is a scene where when we saw the clips in the trailer, like people were like, "Oh, Mon Mothma, girl who is going to be okay." Spoiler, she is not okay. The scenes were part of an epic crash out that she was having.
Okay, I don't. Maybe I just haven't gotten to the good part or something. I've got 3 episodes left in the first season. I don't understand why Mon Mothma is popular.
Like,
What is the draw with this woman? Like, I don't know.
So she's someone who, so she showed up in Return of the Jedi as like one of the leaders who's doing the briefings, and she had like
Yeah.
a line, "Many Bothans died to give us this information." And then during Revenge of the Sith, Genevieve Riley, who is currently playing her, was going to show up in, it was the subplot that got cut that was all about Padme and Mon Mothma and Bail Organa being part of like the proto rebellion.
Okay.
And then she was also in Rogue One.
Yeah. And she showed up in some of Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and Star Wars Rebels. And yeah, then she was in Rogue One as well. And that one, like, people were not really expecting her to show up in Rogue One because she, like, Genevieve Riley had been cast in scenes that were deleted. Like, they were included on the DVD. So, like, we had seen the deleted scenes, but no one was expecting her to come back.
I think also one of the reasons people like Mon Mothma as a character is of what she represents, because her storyline is quite unique in that it shows the difficulty in like fighting in the system.
Ah, yeah.
Of like, you are in the system, and there's only so much that she can do while also being a senator in the imperial system and in the imperial core.
I think maybe I'm just missing some of her other appearances. Like, I mean, I've seen Rogue One. I saw it in theaters, but I've never rewatched it. So maybe I
will say
don't know as
she's
much
a
about her
character
history.
who does get fleshed out more in some of the expanded universe stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, so Andor's out. It's really good. I'm very excited about the next batch of episodes that are dropping on Tuesday. Other things that have started airing: Leverage Redemption season 3 is out. It's actually a very nice change of pace to watch Noah. Like, I'm still watching The Pit. I'm not super far into it, but he's like sad, depressed man with a beard and like sad brown eyes. Like stressed, suffering from PTSD, and then you get to him in Leverage, and like he's just having fun. Like, Achi outfit. This last, he was like pretending to be someone from the future, and he's like, "What did the old people say? I'll stand." No, Captain. He's just like chewing the scenery there. And then in the new episode, he's pretending to be like this pool hustler. He has these like ridiculous fake sideburns.
Oh my god.
And his hair's so hot.
I really like his character in Redemption. I'm maybe like halfway through season 1. It's another one I'm watching with my parents, so we have it on hold for Andor right now. So I really like the addition of that character to the cast. I still want Hardison back more than his sister, I guess, but I'm enjoying the shakeup with the crew. So but I didn't realize the actor, if he's in The Pit and in Leverage Redemption, he's doing both.
Yeah,
because I was seeing things from The Pit, and I was like, oh wow, did he move on or something?
So I think The Pit filmed after Leverage Redemption season 3. Or they were filming, I think, roughly at the same time, because there's there was a joke in episode 1 of season 3 about him having a beard, and he shaved it. So they either did that as like a pickup after The Pit, or he like just came from filming The Pit and did Leverage Redemption.
I'm really happy he's doing both, because I was thinking like, oh, when I get to like the most current season, like, will he be there still or not? So
he's still there. I don't know, because they haven't announced if it's getting a season 4. And knowing John Rogers, the finale is probably going to be done in a way where everything is like wrapped up, but with enough threads for if they get renewed, they can still play in the world. Because he's talked about being really frustrated with writers and showrunners who, if they know their show is on the bubble, will like purposely write in a cliffhanger to kind of pressure the network to renew them. And like, I'm specifically thinking of Warehouse 13, because they would do that when they were on the bubble, and it ended up getting us season 5 of Warehouse 13, which is bad. Don't watch season 5 of Warehouse 13. It is.
But if it doesn't work, it just pisses off people who don't get a satisfying.
Exactly. Or like sometimes the show just gets canceled on a cliffhanger. And I'm thinking of Alphas, also on Sci-Fi Channel, where like season 2 ended on this big cliffhanger.
Yes.
And we never found out what happened.
Warehouse 13. I feel like okay, am I remembering a completely different series? But is Warehouse 13 the one where they have the historical artifacts and they go to different times to kind of...
No, they don't time travel.
They do have a warehouse though.
Yeah, there is a warehouse. It's the one where there's female H.G. Wells, who has like a ridiculous amount of sexual tension with Micah. And then, spoilers for Warehouse 13, they had Micah and Pete to get together, even though they had previously established that Micah and Pete only thought of each other as siblings, and ignoring the insane sexual tension between Micah and HG. And then they also paired HG up with a man. Like, come on.
I mean, I only watched like the first 2 seasons of this. You're telling me that they had a love interest storyline with those two characters? Like, no.
They were
I
never.
just
Yeah,
seem,
yeah,
I
yeah.
just seem
That
to
is my like. That was the fandom's reaction. No one liked the Pete and Micah. Like what happened to Pete and Micah at the end. No
I
one.
just seem to remember an episode with the necklace of Lucrezia Borgia. Is that? Am I remembering a completely different series?
It sounds correct. They probably had it.
Lordy, that could have been an episode of Doctor Who too. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Or The Librarians, which is also like The Librarians is also fun. Like
It's been years. It's been
Someday
like
I will
it's
watch
been
that.
84 years.
anyway,
More like 8 years, but still.
yeah, Leverage Redemption is back. I'm enjoying it. The other thing I've been watching recently is Top Chef. We just had season 7. Restaurant Wars is next week, which I'm very excited about because Restaurant Wars is always a shit show. So for folks who aren't up on Top Chef lore, so Restaurant Wars is every single season, and it's normally when there's about 8 chefs left, and they're divided into 2 teams and have to come up with a restaurant concept and execute it. And it's like the most stressful episode for the chefs. And if anyone is front of house, that's always the person who's like in the most danger. So like sometimes they flip it and like they don't have to worry about front of house and they'll like have someone to help them. But like Restaurant Wars is great. I love Restaurant Wars. So, and I've been playing Disney Dreamlight Valley. They just released a new characters with Alice in Wonderland. So that's fun.
I've been playing Coral Island. So it's essentially if you've ever played Stardew Valley, Coral Island is very similar. It's also a farming simulator. You can romance a bunch of characters, but there's also like a climate crisis / eco, like essentially you are doing tasks in order to help revive the ecosystem of Coral Island. Oh, Ava, we've had appearances from everyone except Sunshine, I think.
Oh, she's been sleeping on top of her cat tree, and I've been sewing, and I don't want her getting in my sewing.
Look at those 2.
Chonks.
Leia's like, stop it.
I have not summoned Sunshine because I don't want her taking interest in my sewing pins.
Fair enough.
That is fair. But yeah, I've been playing Coral Island and it's super cute. I have now 3 cows and 2 goats and 2 sheep and numerous chickens, and my farm is thriving, and it's great. And I'm romancing a blacksmith.
Great choice. Is this a game where you get fancy chickens, or are they just chickens?
So you get like different kinds, so they are randomly generated. So I have 2 white chickens and then 1 that is like a brown one. Like they're basic chickens. And then you get ducks. I have 1 duck, and then whose name is Donald, Aku in Finnish. He has a Finnish name.
You get to name them too?
You get to name everyone. So my cows are named Domino and Oreo and Mansikki, which is basically the Finnish, the most cow name that you can give in Finnish. It's
I love that.
Does it mean something, or is it just
It's strawberry.
Oh, strawberry?
Yeah, but like with a girly, like feminine diminutive.
Oh,
But
So
yeah.
cute. I love it.
And then my goats are named Halti and Saana after the Finnish fjords or like the mountains. So yeah,
Nice.
I am fully invested in this.
All right. Does anyone else have any media or anything else that they'd like to talk about?
I'm trying to think if I've consumed any media since not since our last show, which was our Hugo show, but the one before that. On Netflix, I started watching The Apothecary Diaries, got like halfway through the season and then just got bored of it and stopped watching.
Oh, I'm just watching the second season right now. It's one of my favorites.
I have no idea why I was binging it. I was like, this is the perfect random anime entertainment. And then I just started getting annoyed with stuff. And the moment I started getting annoyed with stuff, I was like, no, my brain refuses to watch another episode. Stop.
For me, it was like very difficult to get into it, but then when it got to kind of the second part of the first season, where the main strategist Lacan is introduced, that's when it started to get really good, and I started to really like it, and now it's one of my favorites. But it took forever for me to start liking it. Oh, Yakuza Fiancé is really good. Yeah.
So maybe I'll try a few more episodes, because I think I must be getting close to there, but not.
Yeah, it's like, I think 12 episodes is the first part, and then because the first season has 24 episodes, so it's basically 12 episodes is the mid-season.
Yeah, I think I've watched through episode 13.
Yeah.
She's just started her new job.
Yeah.
And then I was like, you know what? I don't care anymore. And then
I think the biggest crux of the whole series is that if you do not like Mao Mao's dynamic with Jinshi, you will not enjoy the show.
I think I like their dynamic just fine, but like as characters, but not in context. Like the thing that just like pissed me off. Okay, two things. She had this whole like revelation about who he must be, and then like forgot about it. Did I misread that?
Not really, because she suspects things about him.
Yeah, so she suspects things about him.
But
she
like she
saw
also
him with this person and was like, wow, they look
But she also
related.
Mama is very
and then she's like, I wonder why he has this really fancy house. I'm like, you did just look at him with his mother and be like, I wonder if that's secretly her son. That would tell you something.
Yeah, but like she always puts like a block, basically, because she starts theorizing about that, and then she's like, well, that's conjecture. I do not have any proof, therefore she does not go there. And she's also
I read the scene initially, and then I got to the episode where she's like, whoa, he has a very fancy house. Like, she's surprised.
But that's because like she still thinks like she like in her like eyes he's a eunuch. Like he does not, and he's in the rear palace with the rest, like with the concubines and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like the like from her perspective, the fancy house does not make sense for the position she views that he is in.
Right. I just felt frustrated because I was like, I thought you already figured this out.
No, she's still figuring parts about Jinshi on the second season. Like the second season is where their dynamic really gets going.
And like maybe it's just that because it's tropey enough, and I've seen variations on this so many times that I'm like,
yeah, because it's Sherlock Holmes
to me as a viewer what's going on here.
Yeah, and it's also a Sherlock Holmes type story. Like it's
right.
you're supposed to focus, especially in the first season. The overarching political machinations only start really going on the second season.
Right.
So the first season is all about this Sherlock Holmes type. Each episode has a mystery that she needs to solve.
Then, like, you can tell that they're the romance, right?
Yeah.
That's this nicer job, but the nicer job is suddenly now she's his personal servant. Like that actually makes me into this less.
All right, guys, we do need to wrap up because
anyways, and then I did have a sports adventure. I I didn't tell you. Oh, well, I told you, but like I didn't tell the stream about my sports adventure where I went to Boston to see some of the figure skating world championships. But maybe we do have to wrap up.
Yeah. Do you want to tell folks where to find us? And then we'll be on Rachel's channel next month.
I'm
So
glad you know
found
that
us
because I
there.
didn't.
You always kick us off on the rotation. I'm always at the end, so that's how
I
I
never remember that.
Yeah, it's Rachel, me, Kelsey, and I.
yeah.
And yet in my head, I always come after Ray because I think that was like an old schedule, and I just
Yeah.
haven't. Yeah.
Yeah, and
anyway.
we switched at least once.
We switched, and I was the one who put us on a new schedule. Do I remember the schedule? No.
It's-
The reason I remember it is I host my birthday month, which is August, which means I'm on the 4, so I'm on April.
And I
August.
always do January, so I should be able to predict this. It's like January.
Yeah, because I
May.
also host my birthday month. Which
I
is
don't
February.
host any month that is memorable to me in any way, so I don't remember at all.
Yeah, because I host a lot of I host also the October,
Yeah.
I don't
the memorable
don't
months.
host, like any significant holiday month. I don't think so. Like if I
You
have
host
one holiday-
November, isn't that
Yeah.
Thanksgiving?
Yeah, that's Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but I don't celebrate American Thanksgiving because I live alone and my father is vegan. And
Hey, I have vegan gluten-free Thanksgiving.
All right.
Yeah, you can have Satan,
All right,
which is
let's-
not gluten free.
Let's finish wrapping
Yeah.
up because my stomach is about to like gnaw through my belly.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to watch the next episode of Kowloon generic romance, which has like.
All right, so you found me. You can find me Bookish Die on Blue Sky and Instagram. Kelsey, where can folks find you?
Fancy Hat Lady Reads on YouTube. I posted a video last month and that got me a bunch of new subscribers, and then I haven't posted another video, so they must think I just disappeared. Whoops. Yeah. And
Rachel.
I'm on Blue Sky and Mastodon.
Rachel, where can folks find you?
Well, my channel Colonati, whenever it's my turn to host the live show. I am on Blue Sky, mainly retweeting Stitch and Bitch stuff, and I'm on Instagram. And since I am about to go on vacation, I might actually post something on Instagram for the first time
Ooh.
since Christmas. So, you know.
And Rhea, where can folks find you?
So you can find me on YouTube at the Bookfinch, currently mostly doing the Stitch and Bitches with an eye on eventually maybe getting inspired to do a video here and there. Who knows? I'll keep you in suspense. And then on Blue Sky, where I'm still getting acclimated to the platform. I've only been there a couple of months, so I'm still. It will take some time before my hot takes come out.
All right. Well, thank you all so much who joined us, or folks who are watching after the live stream, and we will catch you next month. Bye.
Bye bye.